I became the youngest judge in my county, but the people who were supposed to love me most tried to ruin my life. This is my story of betrayal, justice, and survival. Before I get into the story, don't forget to subscribe. Part 1. The day the gavel shook my past. I still remember the sound of that gavel, sharp, final, echoing through the courtroom like a thunderclap. People saw a young judge, polished, calm, in full control. But if they'd looked closer, they might have seen the tremor in my hand, the storm I was trying to silence inside me. Because that day wasn't just about justice, it was about ghosts. My own. I was 31, the youngest judge in Brookfield County's history. Cameras flashed, everyone smiled, and I wore my best poker face. But inside, my stomach twisted. Because in the front row sat the man who never believed I'd make it here, my father, Thomas Rivers, and next to him, the one person who'd made my childhood a living hell, my cousin, Alicia. Funny how life works, right? You climb the mountain, thinking the view will be peaceful, but the higher you go, the more your past follows you like a shadow. When my mother died, I was just 9. She was the warmth in our cold little house. After she was gone, Dad changed. He stopped looking at me like his daughter and started looking at me like a burden. Then Alicia moved in, her mother's addiction had wrecked her life, and Dad said we'd save her. But from the first night, I knew who he'd chosen. Alicia had charm, the kind that wraps around weak hearts. She'd lie, cheat, twist every truth, and somehow always come out clean. If I aced a test, she'd whisper that I cheated. If I stayed quiet, she'd cry that I was mean. And my father, he believed her every single time. Years later, when I left home with 2 suitcases and a scholarship letter, I promised myself one thing: I'd never need their approval again. I'd become someone no one could ignore. Law school was brutal. I waited tables at night, studied until sunrise, and cried in bathroom stalls more times than I'll admit. But pain has a strange power. It shapes steel where softness once lived. When I passed the bar, I didn't even tell my father. I figured he'd hear about it from someone else. And he did. The day my name hit the papers, I got one text from him. "Proud of you." Just 3 words, years too late. So there I was, robe on, gavel in hand, staring down the man who had broken me without ever raising his voice. Then the courtroom door opened. I saw her, Alicia, smirking, dressed for court. But this time she wasn't there to watch, she was the defendant. I froze. For a second, the whole world tilted. Alicia Rivers charged with identity theft, using my name, my social security, my credit. She had taken pieces of my life, even now after everything. The prosecutor's voice faded. My chest burned. Every humiliation, every betrayal came rushing back like a tidal wave. But I didn't let it show. I just lifted my chin and said the one line I knew I had to say. For reasons of conflict of interest, I recuse myself from this case. My voice was steady, but my heart was breaking all over again. Outside the courtroom, cameras flashed. My father stood in the hallway, silent, unreadable. He didn't say a word to me, didn't even look at me. He just turned and followed Alicia out. That was the moment I realized, sometimes, justice doesn't start in court. It starts when you stop waiting for an apology. But I had no idea. The real reckoning hadn't even begun yet. Because what came next would make me question everything I thought I knew about family, forgiveness, and myself. Part 2, Blood Ties and Bruised Hearts, emotionally rewritten. The night after that courtroom scene, I sat in my car for hours before even starting the engine. My fingers rested on the steering wheel, cold and shaking. The courthouse lights glowed in the distance, soft, golden, and cruel. Everyone thought I'd just made history, but the truth, I'd just relived my worst nightmare. As I drove through the empty streets, I could feel tears slipping down my face before I even realized I was crying. I kept whispering to myself, "You did the right thing, Lena. You did the right thing." But my chest still hurt like I'd been stabbed somewhere no one could see. When I got home, I dropped my keys on the floor and just slid down against the door. The silence was deafening. I laughed, this dry, broken laugh, because somehow, even after everything, it still felt like Alicia had won. She'd found another way to twist my peace into chaos. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug, knowing smirk that used to haunt me as a kid. The one she wore whenever she got me punished for something she did. I'd forgotten how much it burned. By morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News alerts, emails, texts from people I hadn't heard from in years. Family feud in the courtroom. Judge Rivers, cousin accused of identity theft. My private wounds were suddenly public entertainment. I stared at the headlines and felt this weird mix of anger and humiliation. I wanted to scream, but my throat wouldn't open. Instead, I just whispered, "God, please don't let them see me fall." That's when my clerk, Naomi, called. Her voice was soft, careful, like she was afraid I might break if she spoke too loud. "Judge, are you okay?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to say I'm fine. But all I managed was a shaky, "Not really, Naomi, not this time." Later that evening, my phone buzzed again. A name I hadn't seen in years. Dad. 5 words. "Come home, Lena, we need to talk." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The last time he'd told me to come home, I was 19, and he'd slammed the door in my face when I refused to quit law school. Now he wanted to talk. I should have ignored it, but old habits die hard, and deep down, I still wanted him to finally see me. The drive back to that house felt like crawling into the past. Every mile closer, the air got heavier. When I parked in front of the house, I sat there for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel, whispering to myself, "You're not that scared little girl anymore." Inside, nothing had changed. Same cracked walls, same faint smell of whiskey and old wood. My heart thudded against my ribs. And then her voice, sweet, sharp venom dressed in honey. "Hey, cuz, long time no see." Alicia, sitting right beside my father like she'd never done a single thing wrong. Her nails perfectly polished, her smirk perfectly in place. I forced a breath. Why am I here? Dad didn't even meet my eyes. "She made mistakes, Lena, but she's family. Maybe we can handle this privately." That word privately, it sliced through me. I almost laughed. "You mean bury it like everything else?" His tone hardened. "You've got everything now. Do you really need to destroy her too?" And that broke something in me. I didn't destroy her, Dad. She destroyed me, and you let her. Alicia tilted her head, voice soft and poisonous. "You've always loved playing the victim, haven't you, Lena?" For a second, I almost lost it. My body trembled, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You want to see a victim? Look in the mirror, Alicia. You've been one your whole damn life of your own lies." She smiled like she'd won again. "At least people love me." My heart cracked open right there. Not because she was right, but because she knew exactly where to hit. I turned to my father, tears stinging my eyes. "You want to help her? Do it. But don't ever expect me to be part of your silence again." I walked out. My hands were shaking, my vision blurred, but I didn't turn back. Outside, the sky was crying with me, heavy rain pelting the windshield as I sat in my car. For the first time in years, I realized the truth. I'd been fighting for a family that never existed. But deep in that pain, something inside me shifted, a quiet, dangerous strength I hadn't felt before. Because that night, as the rain poured harder, I made a silent promise. Next time, I wouldn't just survive their betrayal. I'd rise from it, and they'd finally see who Lena Rivers really was. Part 3, when the past started talking back. The rain that night didn't stop. It felt like the sky itself was tired of holding back. I sat there in my car, headlights off, just listening. My breath fogged the window as I whispered, "You're okay, Lena, you're okay." But my voice sounded small, like a child. Haha, yeah, I was lying to myself. I wasn't okay, not even close. I tried turning on the radio. Hopping some random pop song could drown out the noise in my head, but every word just reminded me of what I'd lost. Or maybe what I'd never had. After a while, I grabbed my phone and scrolled through old photos. Mom's smile appeared on the screen, her eyes soft and warm. God, I missed her. Sigh. If she'd been here, maybe everything would have been different. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. You think you're clean, Judge. You've got dirt, too. My heart dropped. I read it again, then again, same words, cold, taunting. I swallowed hard, my fingers trembling as I typed back. Who is this? No reply, just 3 dots that appeared, then vanished. I felt my pulse race. Could it be Alicia? Maybe someone working with her? I didn't know, but something told me this wasn't random. The next morning, I dragged myself to chambers, pretending everything was fine. My assistant Naomi took one look at me and frowned. Judge, you didn't sleep, did you? I forced a smile. Coffee counts as sleep, right? Haha. She didn't laugh. She just placed a folder on my desk. You'll want to see this. Inside were documents from Alicia's case. Credit card statements, fake accounts, loans under my name. But one thing stopped me cold, a signature. Not mine, my father's. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I blinked, hoping it was a mistake. But it was right there, Thomas Rivers, co-signer on a fraudulent loan. My chest tightened. I whispered, no, he would. But he would, wouldn't he? The man who spent his life believing Alicia over me. Maybe this was his way of protecting her again, by helping her steal from me. I felt my eyes burn. My throat ached. Weeping quietly, I covered my mouth with my hand so no one outside my office could hear. Naomi placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Lena, maybe it's time you stop pretending your family's gonna save you. Maybe you save yourself now. Her words hit deep. That evening, I went home, opened a bottle of wine, and sat on the floor, just me and 1,000 memories I never wanted back. I stared at the ceiling, whispering to the silence, Why did you do this, Dad? Haven't you taken enough? My voice cracked. I laughed through the tears, haha, the kind of laugh that hurts. I thought about driving back to his house, screaming every truth I'd buried. But something stopped me. Fear. Not of him, but of finding out that every suspicion was true. Around midnight, another text came in. You don't know half the story, Lena. Come to 42 Elm Street if you want the truth. I froze. That address, it wasn't random. It was my mother's old law office, the one that had been shut down after her death. My heart started pounding so hard, I could hear it in my ears. I whispered, Mom, half laughing, half crying. Is this some kind of joke? Haha, yeah, a joke, except nobody was laughing. I grabbed my coat, the raincoat still damp from earlier. Outside, thunder cracked the sky open like a warning, but I didn't care. I was done running. Whatever waited at that address, secrets, ghosts, lies, I needed to face it. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't just set you free. It drags you straight through hell first. When I reached 42 Elm Street, the rain had turned into mist soft, but it clung to everything like a secret that wouldn't let go. The building looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I'd just grown too big for my childhood ghosts. The front door creaked open like it had been waiting for me. Hello! My voice echoed through the dark, empty hall. Sigh. No answer, just silence, heavy, still, and familiar. I walked slowly, the smell of old paper and dust wrapping around me. My heels clicked against the marble floor, the same one I used to run across when Mom brought me here as a kid. She'd sit me on her desk and say, Justice isn't about who's right, Lena, it's about who's brave enough to stand alone. Haha, yeah, I didn't understand that back then, but standing there now, I did. I switched on my phone flashlight and followed the beam toward her old office. The nameplate was still there, Lena Rivers, attorney at law, half rusted, half sacred. My throat tightened. I whispered, Hey, Mom. For a second, it felt like she'd answer. I pushed open the door. Papers were scattered across the floor, furniture covered in white sheets like forgotten bodies. I knelt down, brushing away dust until I found a faded envelope hidden under the drawer. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, a letter, addressed to Thomas Rivers, my father. I started reading, my voice breaking after every few words. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't stop you. Alicia isn't your daughter, Tom. She's mine from before you and I met. Please, don't make her pay for my sins. My heart stopped. What? I whispered. No, that can't be. I read it again, every line blurred through tears, weeping softly. My breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. So, Alicia isn't even his daughter. Ha ha ha, oh my God. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the truth was cruel in ways I didn't even know possible. Mom had been protecting me, but also protecting her. Suddenly, I heard something behind me, a shuffle, a slow creak of floorboards. "Who's there?" I asked, my voice shaking. A shadow moved near the doorway. And then a low, calm voice. "You shouldn't have come here, Lena." My flashlight trembled. "Dad." He stepped into the light. His face looked older, heavier, like guilt carved every wrinkle. I gasped, tears running down my face. You knew and you lied to me for years." He sighed, closing his eyes. "I did what I had to. Your mother was going to destroy everything. You wouldn't understand." I screamed, "Understand? You destroyed me. You let her die thinking she was the villain." He didn't move, just looked at me with that cold, unreadable stare. Then he whispered, "You're becoming just like her." I froze. Those words, the same ones he used when I was a teenager, every time I dared to question him. Haha, yeah, maybe I was becoming like her. Brave, loud, unafraid. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and whispered back, "Thank you. That's the best thing you've ever said to me." He looked startled. I walked past him, letter in hand, heart pounding. The truth didn't destroy me, it rebuilt me. Because sometimes, justice doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts in the moment you stop letting the people you love break you. Part 5. The calm before the reckoning. A few days had passed since that night at Mom's old office. I hadn't slept properly. Every morning I woke with my heart pounding, imagining every conversation I would have, every truth I'd finally throw into the light. Sigh. I brewed my coffee, black bitter, just like my mood, and stared out the window at the city slowly waking. Cars honked, people rushed past, oblivious to the storms in other lives. Haha, yeah, my storm was small compared to the world, but it felt like the biggest thing that had ever existed. I ran my hands through my hair, feeling the ache in my shoulders. Naomi's words kept echoing in my mind. "Maybe you save yourself now." And for the first time in a long time, I realized she was right. I didn't need anyone to save me. I didn't need Dad. I didn't need Alicia. I just needed the truth to be seen publicly, finally. I walked into the courthouse that morning with a calm I didn't feel. Every step echoed on the marble floors like a drumbeat, me marching toward justice, my justice. I caught glimpses of colleagues whispering, reporters gathering. Their eyes were on me, but I felt untouchable, unshakable. Haha, finally. I spent the day reviewing Alicia's files again. Every fraudulent loan, every fake account, every manipulated signature. And then I found something that made my chest tighten, a series of emails from Dad to Alicia, guiding her, protecting her. The betrayal had been deeper than I thought. My blood boiled. I wanted to scream. I wanted to weep. I wanted to shake him until he admitted every lie. Instead, I smiled. Haha, small, quiet, deadly. I made a few calls. A trusted journalist, someone who respected privacy but loved the truth. I forwarded the files, every signature, every email, every piece of evidence linking Dad to Alicia's schemes. "It's time people see the real story," I whispered into the phone, voice trembling but firm. By mid-afternoon, the courthouse was buzzing. Reporters lined the steps. Cameras flashed. I could feel the tension, the electricity in the air. And through it all, I kept my composure. Sigh, my heart raced, but my face was calm, the calm of someone who had waited years for this exact moment. And then, as if the universe had timed it perfectly, Dad appeared. He walked past me without a glance, confident, arrogant, completely unaware that I now held the power. I wanted to laugh, haha, the laugh of someone who finally knew they had the upper hand. Alicia followed, smirking, thinking she still had control, but I caught her eye. The smirk faltered, just for a second, and that was enough. I stepped into the spotlight, every inch the judge everyone had admired. But this time, my gavel wasn't just for the courtroom. It was for my life. Every betrayal, every tear, every sleepless night, it all built into this. And I knew I was ready. Because in the next moment, when the truth comes crashing down, no one, not Dad, not Alicia, not anyone, would ever be able to look at me the same way again. Part 6, Truth Unleashed. The courthouse steps were crowded that morning. Reporters, cameras, microphones, flashing lights like a storm ready to explode. I felt my chest tighten. Sigh, I ran a hand over my face, trying to steady my trembling fingers. Haha, yeah, trembling was exactly a superpower, but it felt like mine today. I stepped up, shoulders back, chin high. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, curiosity, judgment, a tiny flicker of fear. The truth was heavy in my bag, tucked under folders and evidence I'd spent hours meticulously organizing. Every signature, every email, every manipulated document linking Dad to Alicia's lies, it was all there. And finally, I held it. Alicia was there, standing tall, smirk plastered on her face like she still owned the room. But I noticed the twitch in her hand, the slightest hesitation. Ha, oh, that felt good. I inhaled, slow and steady, heart pounding in my ears. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, voice calm but low and dangerous. For years, people have assumed that family ties protect us, that loyalty outweighs truth. But sometimes the people we love most are the ones who betray us the deepest. I paused. Sigh, I could feel the weight of every childhood tear, every late-night study session, every moment Alicia and Dad had tried to break me. And today, I continued, letting the words roll like thunder, it's time the truth is seen. I handed the first set of documents to the journalist I trusted. Cameras snapped. Reporters murmured. Alicia's smirk faltered just for a moment, and I could see panic flash across her face. Haha, yes, finally. I didn't even need to point fingers. The evidence spoke louder than any accusation I could have shouted. Every manipulated loan, every stolen identity piece, every email from Dad guiding her, all of it was in black and white. Alicia's knees buckled slightly. Her voice wavered, trying to sound casual. You can't do this. I shook my head, deep breath, voice shaking but firm. I can and I will. This isn't about revenge, it's about justice. And it's about finally refusing to be silenced. Dad stepped forward. His face paled. He opened his mouth, but no words came. His whole world, his control, his facade, crumbling silently in front of hundreds of eyes. Weeping softly, I felt a shiver run through me. I raised my head, letting every flash of the cameras capture my face. Strong, unbroken, but alive with every emotion I'd ever buried. This isn't just about me, I said, voice breaking slightly. Sigh. It's about every person who's been silenced, who's been betrayed by someone they trusted. Today, we change that. Alicia finally lost it. Her voice cracked, tears spilling down her face. You don't understand, Dad, Haha, she gasped, stumbling backward. And I felt a quiet victory settle in my chest. Not cruelty, not hate, just truth. I turned to the cameras, my heart racing, a small shaky laugh escaping me. Let this be a lesson, I whispered. No one's betrayal can define your worth, not even family. And as the courthouse erupted in murmurs and flashing cameras, I finally felt it, the weight of years lifting. Every tear, every sigh, every laugh through the pain had led to this. Because the hardest part isn't exposing the truth. It's deciding what comes next when everything you thought you knew falls apart. Part 7, Picking up the pieces. The courthouse chaos had faded, leaving me standing in my office, chest still pounding, heart still raw. Sigh, I sank into my chair, letting the weight of everything press down on me. Haha, yeah, I laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that comes out when you've survived a storm and can't believe it's finally over. Naomi peeked in, eyes soft. Judge, you okay? I shook my head, sniffing, weeping softly, voice trembling. No, but I think I'm finally ready to breathe again. For the first time in years, I realized I didn't need their approval. Dad's favoritism, Alicia's lies, every betrayal that had haunted me, they couldn't touch me anymore. Sigh, I let out a long breath, feeling a strange calm settle into my chest. I knew the next steps mattered. Public exposure wasn't enough. I needed boundaries. I needed to make it clear Lena Rivers is my own person. I called my father later that evening. His voice, when he finally answered, was hesitant. Lena, I cut him off gently, sighed. Dad, we can talk, but some things can't go back to the way they were. I won't be part of your silence anymore. I need space, honesty, and boundaries. He was silent for a long moment, and I could hear his breath. I understand. I'm sorry. I let the silence hang. Then, quietly, weeping softly, I said, I forgive you in my own way, but this doesn't mean I forget. I just move forward. Haha, it felt strange, powerful even, saying it out loud. Not forgiving for him, but forgiving for me. The next morning, I sat in my chambers, staring at the sunlight streaming through the blinds. I realized that my experience, the betrayals, the pain, the victories, could be something more, a force to help others. I started drafting a plan for a mentoring program, young women who had grown up in toxic or neglectful families, who felt unseen, unheard, or powerless. Sigh, I smiled softly. I remembered Mom's words. Justice is more than punishment, Lena. It's lifting others when they fall. I laughed lightly, haha, because after all these years, I finally got it. Naomi peeked in again. You're smiling, that's new. I nodded, eyes still glistening. Yeah, for the first time, it feels like I'm doing something that matters, not for approval, not for revenge, but for impact. And even Alicia, even Dad, their shadows no longer controlled me. I was finally free. My power didn't come from defeating them. It came from choosing myself, choosing my path, choosing healing over bitterness. Weeping softly, I whispered to myself, I survived them, and now I thrive. The mentoring program would launch in a few months. Every story I'd lived, every tear I'd shed, every laugh and sigh along the way, it would fuel this new chapter. Because I realized something essential. Strength doesn't come from hurting others. It comes from rising despite them. And as I opened my laptop to draft the first welcome letter for the girls who would come to me, I knew the journey wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Part 8, Facing the Shadows. The day I decided to confront Alicia wasn't planned. I didn't text, didn't warn her. I just showed up. Sigh, my hands were shaking, heart hammering, but I walked in like I owned every step I had ever taken in my life. Haha, yeah, that kind of power feels strange when it's yours for the first time. She was waiting in that cafe we'd spent awkward, competitive hours in as teenagers. The same place she once tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. Her smirk greeted me, but it was thinner, brittle. I could see the cracks. Lena, she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. I didn't expect you. I let out a shaky laugh, haha, and slid into the booth opposite her. Expect me? Oh, Alicia, I've been expecting you for years. Her eyes darted, something like guilt, but quickly masked by arrogance. You think you're better than me. I shook my head slowly, sigh. No, I think I'm me. Something you've never managed to be, no matter how hard you tried. We sat in silence. Coffee cooled. The sounds of the cafe faded, replaced by memories I hadn't touched in years, all the times she lied, cheated, laughed at my pain. All the nights Dad favored her, ignored me. Weeping softly, I swallowed the lump in my throat. I didn't mean, she started, voice cracking. Haha, oh, I almost laughed. Didn't mean, Alicia, you destroyed parts of me I'll never get back. You used me, manipulated me, and laughed while I suffered. And now you're saying you didn't mean it. Her eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. I didn't know what else to do. I leaned back, shaking my head, letting the pain roll through me. Sigh, the rage, the heartbreak, the laughter, the crying, it all swirled together. You want to know the truth? I whispered, voice trembling. It doesn't matter what you meant. I survived you. I thrived because of everything you did, and I'm done letting you control my life. She lowered her gaze. I could see her breaking in ways I'd never imagined. Haha, ironic, isn't it? That the little cousin who tormented me was finally facing herself. I stood up, my chair scraping lightly against the floor. I felt tall, unshakable. I forgive you, I said softly, weeping softly. Not for you, for me, so I can keep moving forward. She sniffled, voice barely audible. Lena. I smiled gently, sigh, heart light but full. Goodbye, Alicia. Don't contact me. Don't try to be part of my life. And maybe find your own way. And just like that, I walked out. Outside, the sun was breaking through the clouds. I felt the warmth on my face, the rain from previous days gone. I laughed softly, haha, shaky but free. I realized something important in that moment. Revenge isn't always about hurting someone. Sometimes it's about reclaiming yourself. Every tear, every sigh, every heartbreak, it led me here. To freedom, to strength, to peace. Because the final battle wasn't about Alicia or Dad. It was about becoming the person I was always meant to be, unbreakable, unstoppable, and finally, entirely my own. Part 9, Legacy of Lena Rivers. Months had passed since the courthouse showdown. Alicia's story was public. Dad, well, he was quietly out of the picture, facing his own consequences. And me, I was finally breathing. Sigh, real breathing, the kind that fills your chest with air instead of anxiety. I sat in my new office, sunlight streaming across the polished desk, folders stacked neatly, a world I'd created on my own. Haha, I laughed softly, shaky but full of relief. Look at you, Lena, you made it. The phone rang. Naomi's cheerful voice. Judge Rivers, your first mentee just confirmed the program starts next week. I smiled so wide it hurt. My heart swelled. Weeping softly, I whispered, finally, it's real. I thought back to the little girl who studied by candlelight, the teenager who begged Dad for approval, the young lawyer fighting cases she barely had energy for. And now, I was sitting here, about to help other girls who felt just like I did. Abandoned, doubted, unseen. I opened my laptop and drafted the welcome email for the first group. My hands shook a little, sigh, because this wasn't just a program, it was a lifeline. A way to take the hurt I'd carried for years and turn it into something powerful. Something that could save someone else. Later that day, I received a text from Dad. Short, hesitant. I'm proud of you, Lena, truly. Haha, I laughed, soft, shaky. Not because it erased the past, but because finally, the words existed. I typed back carefully. Thank you. I hope one day you understand that it's not my job to fix you. But I forgive you for me, and I hope you can try to be better. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need one. Sigh, my peace didn't depend on him anymore. That evening, I walked through the courtyard of my office building, the city lights twinkling like tiny stars. I imagined every girl who would come to me, scared, unsure, hiding her tears like I once did. And I promised myself, weeping softly, I would meet each one with open arms, guidance, and the strength I'd fought so hard to earn. I remembered Mom's words, whispering through my memory. Strength is not just in winning cases, Lena, it's in lifting others when you fall. Haha, I laughed again, shaky but full of warmth. That was my true victory. Not the courthouse, not Alicia, not even Dad, but this program, this purpose. I leaned back in my chair, letting the sunlight wash over me and whispered quietly, sigh, I survived. I thrived. And now I rise for me and for everyone who thought they couldn't. Every tear, every sigh, every laugh and heartbreak along the way had led to this moment. And I knew this was only the beginning of Lena Rivers' legacy. Because some stories don't just end, they inspire, they heal, and they ignite the courage to rise above every shadow. And mine was just getting started.